It's now 7:02, and we are going to kick off the meeting. This is the July 21st meeting of the Town of Fairfield Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience, and Erosion Control Board. I'd like to have all the members go around and say who they are, and then we will announce the people who are on, who are remote. I'm Becky Bunnell, Chair.
Charles Abercrombie, member.
Peter Ferrio, Associate Member.
Dick Mahusky, Secretary. John
Dilly, Vice Chair.
Carolyn Camlet, alternate.
Oh, she is there.
So we are missing some of our regular members, so as chair, I have the ability to raise some of the alternates into members for the purposes of voting for this meeting. I'd like to propose, I know Manish Jain is not going to be coming, so I'd like to propose that Peter step up to be a full member for the purposes of this meeting. And we don't have James Posey, so let's assume if he does not come, Carolyn, would you like to step up to be a full member for the purposes of voting in James's spot?
Sure, and I second the Peter, although I guess you don't really need a second.
I don't think I need a second to have people step up.
No, the chair appoints.
Yes. So with that, I'd like to start the meeting and call the meeting to order. Our first order of business is to hear, consider, and act upon the minutes of the June 16th meeting. Did everyone get a chance to review those minutes, and are there any substantive comments and changes that you'd like to share?
I have a comment. At the very beginning, it's just grammar, I guess. First line, Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience, and Erosion Control Board will hold a regular meeting, should be held, because these are minutes. And then down right above item number 1, Mr. Mahusky appointed Peter Ferrio and Carolyn Camlet as full voting members. Strike were appointed. And then down at the bottom of page 1, item number 2, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph in the middle. At the middle, it starts, a discussion began about who will set the dam up and also the box walls. I think who will is a little too forceful. It's like who would or who might set it up, because we have not discussed that with any substance yet. So that's still to be determined. So, and again, that's my reaction to it. Item number 3, second paragraph, second line down, is out for the next 2 weeks. There's an extra S in there, just strike that S. Item 5, same thing about Tiger Dam. Second paragraph, this was covered above. To how this will be utilized, as to how this might be utilized. Item number 7, second paragraph, LAS grant was authorized to be received by the town for $110,000. Long Island Sound is putting out an RFP about measuring levels. Long Island Sound, is that the real name of it?
It's the Long Island Sound grant done by the Yukon.
E-Grant.
Sea Grant, yeah. And
So Sea Grant is putting out the RFP?
It might be their.
It just doesn't ring right. The Long Island Sound is putting out an RFP.
Yeah, I think it's Long Island Sound. I think it's the Long Island Sound Partnership. Is it Long Island Sound Partnership?
I'm just pulling up to see if I can find the actual.
Yeah, we should clarify that. Yep. Okay.
If it is
the
partnership.
University of Connecticut.
Say again?
It is a Yukon.
I believe it's administered by UConn. Yeah.
The grant is. Okay.
So it's Connecticut Sea Grant, Long Island Sound Partnership, University of Connecticut, New Haven County Extension Center. It's the Sea Grant at UConn.edu is what the. So I think if we just said Connecticut Sea Grant, Long Island Sound Partnership Grant.
Yeah.
I think would be fine.
And then third paragraph on item 7, Dick Mahusky sent out an email. He has sent to our state representatives. I sent that to the old Coastal Caucus people, which is state, not local.
Yep.
So those are my comments.
Did anyone else
Suggestions.
have comments or suggested edits on the minutes, the June minutes?
Thanks.
I did not.
Nope.
Peter, yes.
I had a question. There was extensive discussion about your financial review of, I'm not sure if it was Race or if it was one of the consulting firms' progress to budget. I think
Did we
that-
discuss that in June?
I thought we discussed that last month.
I was remote, I think, last.
You were,
So I don't know that I presented.
maybe that
anything.
was, I apologize, it might have been done by email,
I
but,
think it might have been done by email.
okay.
So I don't know that it came into the meeting itself.
Very good,
I
okay,
don't show anything in my notes.
okay. That was, it was an email that goes on.
And I'll pick it offline and answer any questions about that. But actually, we'll probably have an update on the budget today from Lindsay. Any other comments on the June minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve with Dick's suggested edits?
I'll make the motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second,
All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? John seems to have stepped away, but let's, so approved. So
Oh,
let's move on.
sorry, I approve. I
Okay.
couldn't get off mute fast enough for you there. Sorry.
That's okay, okay. Let's go to item number 2, and let me just ask Azur and Lindsay, I had put the race coastal as the number 1, but if you'd prefer to have it go Lindsay first, then Azur, I'm happy to do either. I just thought, Azur, you might be able to jump off earlier if you did your coastal right away. We've got, as number 2, we have proposed master plan coastal measures, and then just an update on the plan itself, status, next steps, and schedule. Is the way we had proposed the order. And if that's okay, I think you can go ahead and share screen, I believe, Azure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Again, for the record, my name is Azure D. Sleicher. I'm Vice President of Race Coastal Engineering, and we're part of the Weston and Sampson team for the master plan for flood and resilience. And let me get to the right screen. So the last time we did a public forum, and I know this is public, although I think the public don't have the opportunity to speak here, was in the Fire Training Center back in winter, fall, to go over the results of the coastal modeling that we did. And so since that time, we've been looking at those results, coordinating with the town, both folks from this board as well as Bill Hurley and Emmeline and other town staff to prioritize the locations in which we want to take next steps for design of concepts to mitigate the flooding. So based on different ranking criteria and locations, we came up with collectively 15 locations with kind of a pecking order, from the town's perspective. Most of those areas are public areas in which, it's, I guess, the thought is it's easier to do something on public land versus private land. So we're starting with, critical and public infrastructure and these public spaces to start with. So what we've done as a first pass on these 15 locations, for the most part, is looking at the location, looking at what the flooding source is, what the relative elevations are of those areas, and still looking at a plus 12 elevation, which we've determined through previous studies working with the town, and that still seems to be a good, elevation to work towards. So we came up with some ideas for each area, and I'll say not a lot of surprises as far as most of the solutions are either they're flood control measures in the fact that they're either walls, berms, or a temporary deployable measure such as the tiger dams or something similar to that effect. Or some combination of those things based on these particular locations and what we're trying to protect. Right now, again, these are just concept levels, and our thought is, to continue to work collectively with the town, with the board, to either advance these or scratch them if it's not something that you're interested in. But the idea is to get these to a place that with the master plan that there's potential to seek grant money to take these to the next step. So based on our contract, we're looking at advancing these to basically 10% concept level design. So it's not a significant level of design, but we're trying to work out, again, whether it's a wall, whether it's a berm, what are those spatial extents, what are those potential impacts, without getting into, say, the details if it's a wall, whether or not necessarily if it's sheet pile or concrete, and what the details of that might be, because those kinds of designs, taking it further than 10% concept level, is going to require more detail about the site. Things like geotechnical information, borings, in order to design walls. So at a high level, is it a wall, is it a berm, or is it something else, such as road raising in a couple of places. So if you can see my viewer, I'm going to try with the viewer. I know we've shared the link to the viewer to certain members of the board, and hopefully that information has been able to be shared with the rest of the board. Although I know that there were some potential technical glitches with operating and downloading this viewer. But what we did in GIS was we able to overlay the topography, the results of our modeling and these locations in the GIS, and start mapping some things out at a high level. So you see that?
Yeah, we can see it. Ezra, can I just step in for a minute and
Sure.
just for the purposes of the board and for anyone on the who's listening, either now or later to this, the intent of this is to, over the next 4 days, the FIRB board, working with the town staff, will be collecting a series of comments, and by the end of the week, we'll be sending them to Race with our collective comments, just so we can collect everything in one set. And then Race will take those comments and move these forward. So today, the objective is to ask questions if you don't understand something, or if you wanted to understand why they did certain things, so that you can prepare some comments. So this is what the role of today's meeting is a question. It's not necessarily to share our comments, but it's more to make sure you understand what they're proposing, and then be able to come up with your suggestions and thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yes. Perfect. Thank you, Becky. I was getting to that eventually. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Long-winded way to say this is to get your feedback. All right. So again, the viewer, we have each location, and we have a different, check boxes that you can toggle things on and off. So we'll start with Town Hall and Sherman Elementary School area. And so here we have, in white, color-coded is walls. Orange is deployables. So actually, let me turn on one thing. Helps to set the stage of terrain, the existing terrain. So dark blue is elevation 7. So that's low elevations getting up to our target elevation of 12. And so there's your scale there. So I'll close that. But so up here in red, you can see we have high ground, and then we're down as low as 6, 7 down in this area. And so to protect Town Hall, Historical Society, the elementary school, again, we have this public land, we have these ball fields here, we have this marsh area, which obviously is a sensitive environment, but, with mitigation, we could possibly, put in structures. So the idea here is walls along the road, high ground to high ground to protect the entire facility. Now we can slice and dice this wall a few different ways. If we wanted to say playground is floodable and we wanted to bring the wall up along the school, so there's different ways we can do that. If we wanted to protect the school separately and the town hall separately and leave the marsh and the ball field open in the middle, so we can do that a few different ways. But basically walls, and then what you see in the orange is the openings to the parking lots, which we would not want to wall up for obvious reasons. So those are the deployables. So we would want to seal the gaps, during a storm. Otherwise, they would be open for access. So similar vein with this option here, green is berms. And so, a berm might have its benefits from being able to be planted, could have, a habitat enhancement component, especially in the marsh areas. Certainly, a sloped berm will behave better against wave action and flood action. There's less run up and reflection, say from a slope surface than a vertical wall surface. So there's benefits, but the other the downside is spatial constraints. So with a berm, you have a side slope on each side, and you have this width in between, so it takes up a lot more area. So again, where we thought it could potentially work, we have berms, but here again, when we're on adjacent to the road next to the school, there's not enough room for a berm, so we're back to a wall in these locations.
We have a question. I think Carolyn has a question. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Carolyn, can
No,
you-
please do. Let's make this to the extent that hopefully we won't run out of time. Let's make this interactive. I'm happy to do that.
Can you unmute
I'm sorry,
yourself?
it's just a sort of quick question. So the drawings I'm looking at, when you have the numbers from 7 to 12, are you looking at bringing Sherman School that right now is at are you trying to bring Sherman to the 7 out of the, it's like, do these structures change that level? So you're addressing the level as they are, or you're trying, because this is what they are right now when we're looking at them, right?
Well, the height of the structure would change depending on what the height of the topography is. So the berm would be 5 feet high in the blue area and 1 foot high in the yellow area.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah, so the intent is to keep a continuous level of protection at elevation 12, but based on the surrounding topography, that might be a 3-foot wall in some places, a 5-foot wall in other places, and so on.
Yeah, much like a ford. It's a hard one.
If I may, Caroline, you're not asking about if the buildings themselves are being raised, are you?
No, I'm not. I was just looking at the colors and what they were trying to accomplish at the time. But thank you. No, that's fine.
And then here, this concept is only using deployables in which you would want to, during a storm, just protect the school, just protect town hall facilities. And again, so that would be something that would be done in advance of a storm and just only protect the critical infrastructure.
Is there any, we could just do like a berm in those areas? That's what you were kind of saying about number 1. There was some flexibility. Is that possible?
To do a berm just around the school?
Yeah, right, like a hardening, yeah.
We'd have to look at that. I think, again, a berm just around the school, I think we run into spatial constraints on the north side with the road. and the access to the school.
Or it
And
could be
again,
a wall, and yeah, just any kind of.
yeah, it could be maybe a wall on the north side and then a berm like extending into the playground area, and certainly a berm, just in this area. So yeah, so there's the different combinations that
Right.
could work in these locations.
All right, thanks, you answered it.
All right, so I'm going to move on. Again, we got 15 to get through. So we'll go over to the Public Works Garage next. All right, so we're over here. Again, red is high ground, elevation 12, our target already. And so this area here is actually being flooded from water that's getting around through the salt marsh this way and through this way from the kind of the east and west, because we have interceding high ground directly, in Pine Creek. So here is walls with deployables at the entrance, from high ground to high ground on this side only, because we already have the high ground there. And similarly, we could consider a berm here. We do have this open space, whether or not it's fully public. We'd have to dig down a little bit more. But we're looking at something with the two green lines represent the approximate width that we'd be looking at for a berm based on the target elevation of 12 and, the existing grade. So it does, again, take up quite a bit of space. It's probably on the order of, 30, 40 feet wide. So again, I think there's going to be a time and place where it probably makes more sense than others. But certainly, again, berms, tend to be looked at a little bit more favorably than a vertical wall when they can work. And then here again is just deployables from high ground to high ground. All right. The next one is Reef Road to Jennings. It's a combination of permanent barriers and deployables. So we go down here to the high ground. This area is a weak point here per our modeling. It's low, even through over the tide gate. One option is deployables along the entire Fairfield Beach Road. Again, we do have some places of red here, high ground with the dunes, that perhaps we could not have it continuous. We could tie in here and then we could tie in there and shorten it up a little bit. Those are things that could be explored. The general concept is putting the Tiger Dam type of deployable or similar along the road, again, public. I think many of you were involved in the Tiger Dam demonstration. There was a lot of discussion about, potentially using it on the beach, and we did not show that as a concept because I think that there's a lot of downside to that. One, depending on where you are on the beach, you may not be in public land anymore. You might be on someone's private property above a mean high, and the lower you are into the tide zone, into the public trust area, is going to be more susceptible to wave action. It's also going to be at a much lower elevation, requiring significant stacking of the Tiger dams, and with direct wave action, probably not the best location for that. So that's why we kept it on the road. Thought we had more combinations of that, but I think that one is still in the works based on some comments, Becky, that you had the last time of, doing some, tie-ins to the dunes and, maybe a little bit of a wall here. And, we had previous concepts with doing something in front of the Penfield Pavilion in this public space. So there's multiple combinations of that, which if that's not on the hard copy, I'll make sure that you guys get that. Why it's not showing up. All right, so we'll move on. Oh, so the next one is raised houses. So obviously that's not really something we can draw on here, but there is a concept of raising all of the houses in the beach area. Um, we'll be exploring that further in the master plan, and I think one of our uh, task orders is to potentially look at the cost of that. So Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's in the work. So I'll skip that one since it's hard to draw. Same thing with retreat landward of I-95.
Can I just jump in a second? Army Corps did look at that as a do-nothing scenario, if that's helpful, if you want to look at their numbers and how they arrived at theirs. It was over $500 million, it was $580 million or something to raise all the houses. But that didn't include the houses that have already been raised since Army Corps did their study in 2019. So that was why we wanted to do that study, to understand which houses have been raised and which haven't, so we could actually subtract the houses that have been raised from the do-nothing scenario. So I don't know if that's helpful context for you or not, but that was the start point that we were going with, which is 2019 dollars of 580 million, which is a lot.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't even want to know what it escalates to today.
Exactly.
And similarly, the retreat landward of 995, probably not a popular option, but certainly something to, to be contemplated. Again, it's hard to draw, take away all the houses, but certainly, there's been, I don't want to say discussion, but, some thought of perhaps managed retreat, from the beach area, over time, if houses get destroyed during a storm, that, it's perhaps, policy that don't get rebuilt. So there's things that, other communities have done that we're looking into of how one might manage long-term retreat, from these sensitive areas. We say north of 95, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, obviously that would be crazy. But perhaps, the Fairfield Beach Road community, something like that over time, where, maybe the stretch of beach becomes a large dune or a levee that protects all of the town, but again, at the expense of, the neighborhood that's there today. So this is something kind of, again, way out there, always an option. Certainly not a popular one, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that, that's something the town could consider long term. Again, hard to draw. All right, so we'll go back here to more walls and berms, fire, police station. We have a couple of different options here. So here's just a deployable high ground to high ground. Fortunately, we have close high ground close by. This one is permanent wall here on the waterward side with deployables along the road at the entrances. And there's really not a lot of real estate there for a berm. Some of the other things that look, could be considered, for some of these town buildings is, and again, hard to draw. It's going to be captured in some of our illustrations in the master plan, with things like actually flood proofing the building itself. So, looking at ways to seal off, the walls and the doors, make sure that the walls are flood proofed, and that doors have things like floodgates that could be deployed, at the storm, but not a big tiger dam, but something at each door and window, any opening to the buildings that would be more specific to the building itself. So things like the public works garage, the police and fire department buildings could be looked at. But again, designing those building specific flood proofing techniques, would require again, beyond the scope of this master plan, but looking specifically at the building, its foundation, the construction type of its walls, the structural stability, and things like that. But those are things that potentially could also be looked at to just protect, the contents and the building itself.
Sir, we've talked before, Greg in particular talked about dry proofing those buildings, the fire and police. Is that something that you could provide an estimate, at least for us to go to the next stage to do that analysis that you're talking about? So if we were to start a project that would be exploring the costs, to actually do the dry proofing, do the analysis to put together, would you be able to give us at least a cost to do that next phase?
Yes.
That could be, I think, helpful.
Are you talking about like a design, or are you talking about like just a construction budget price?
Both, a design
Oh, I
price and
just
a
wonder-
construction
okay.
budget price. And I know the construction budget will be a very broad estimate,
Right.
because you don't know until you work it, what it'll be.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. And we've done things like that in the past. Again, it's a structural inspection of the walls and the foundation. It's trying to obtain, old, design drawings. Some of the buildings might have those available. Some might be old enough not to, have those readily available, but it is, it's a research and inspection, and then some structural analysis of what the walls are likely to take, and what can be done, at the openings, because that's still, the weak point. And, again, fire department, you need those big garage, bays, and so those provide challenges, but certainly, an option to just protect the building itself instead of putting up walls and berms around it. All right. Moving on, Southport. So this one is actually this brown color is raising the road. Again, raising road, and I'll just say that, and this applies to every time I say raising road. We're not going to get to elevation 12 on these. Again, we're looking at low lying elevation 7, 6. Raising the road to elevation 12 in any of these locations is just not going to be practical, feasible, especially when you have residential homes with their access driveways and things like that. Going up 6 feet on the road is just going to be not practical. So here it's it's a few inches at a time, maybe a foot and a half each one. We'd have to look at each road a little bit more specifically if we take this to the more of the 10% design. Looking at the other existing infrastructure in the road, adjacent to the road, the homes, the whatever businesses, and access, and these road raisings might help with some of the nuisance flooding or the smaller storm events, which could still have significant benefits to the neighborhood. Emergency access on a day like today where we're going to get 3 inches of rain in a couple hours. Might help that or minor storm, some of the sunny day flooding that you see in some areas, but by no means are we likely to get anywhere near the elevation 12 in any of these locations. But I mean, here we do have some high ground. We do have some high ground, but unfortunately, in between is fairly low. Again, deployable high ground to high ground, and that's all we have for that location.
Question before you move on?
Sure.
Just so I'm clear, and the same would apply to the deployables and such on the Reef Road to Jennings alternatives. But looking specifically to make it easy on location number 7, alternate number 2, the deployables, am I correct that you're running it along Harbor Road, so all of the beachside residences and the yacht club are cut off?
That is what we're showing, and again, that's something that would need to be further discussed because with all here, I mean, Perry's Green, public property. We have, well, now here we have the yacht club, that's private property. We've got, I think a lot of these are private property, so I don't know how you protect those properties without putting a deployable essentially maybe along their seawall. But then that was, again, that poses other challenges. It's not impossible, but it's, and I think again, for those folks that were at the Tiger Dam demonstration, it was pretty interesting. I think he had the example from Detroit where it kind of snaked through the neighborhood and in and around the houses. And certainly that's something that, again, with deployables can be done, but it's going to take a lot of coordination and consensus from, the owners of these properties in order to protect them with, deployable, on their property. So right now we're showing it on the public street.
Okay, thanks.
All right. All right. So 185 Thorpe Street is an interesting one because it's going to be, developed by a developer, and it's an opportunity perhaps for the town to have the developer implement some things that are going to be to the benefit of reduction of flooding in this neighborhood. So this one's an interesting one when we start putting the layers on because we actually have the plans from the proposed development incorporated in here. So there's some buildings, and they do have a berm, rather small berm that's being proposed as part of their site. Certainly not from high ground to high ground. So what we looked to do was actually expand that berm to the higher elevation and bring it out. This one is potentially has a lot more impact, with a berm with spatial extent into the sensitive wetland area. So this is certainly something we want to talk to the state about when we have the meeting with them next month. But we see that this could be also opportunity where it could maybe be a nature walk on top or something like that, where it would have a public access benefit in addition to being a planted berm with some habitat enhancement and things of that nature. It's a little bit, we'd have to crack a few eggs to get that omelet, have some impacts to the wetlands in order to, provide the additional benefits. But I think perhaps with some mitigation, that might be an opportunity. Here again, we're high ground up in the red up here, that has, could be multi-purpose access. And then from here through this section of neighborhood to get to the full high ground, we have, again, a small section deployable. So that was one idea. Here, again, they have a small berm, but basically getting from, and I believe their berm was only elevation 8, if I'm correct in that. So it was not proposed. Yeah, it's maxing out at 8. So it's not getting up to the preferred 12 elevation. So building upon their berm, we basically said, well, at the top of that berm, you could put another 4-foot wall to get to elevation 12 and protect, again, high ground to high ground. Here we have deployable going over to here. This wouldn't really do so much for public access, but, again, just building upon what they're proposing to do. And then, again, deployable here from high ground. So that was another idea that we had.
Yeah, just on this one, Asri, it shows you the area that you'd be protecting behind it. All those greens, if you didn't have that, would get flooded. So
Right.
This is one of those cases where it's pretty, because it's a small concentrated area, you could really see what we're protecting, if you know what I mean.
Is it possible actually to add up the number of houses or buildings that you are protecting with these scenarios? I mean, I'd be curious to know if it's 15 or if it's 40.
You'd probably have to physically count, or maybe there's a way the GIS can do it.
Can't GIS count for us how many
The mill rate that's affected by,
houses are actually being protected
Yeah.
for each of these scenarios? Because if it's only 10 houses or 15 houses and it's going to cost us $8 million, that doesn't seem like a good value.
But if it's 1 million and it
Yeah,
saves
exactly.
2 million, then you're.
Then it's absolutely worth doing.
Yep.
Is
Not
that as far south as that deployable will go, or is that just a proposed and we can see how far we take it ashore? Like I'm looking,
On
I
this
see, I see St. Anthony's and I see the old West Cemetery up there. I didn't know how, I guess we could take the deployable as far or short as we want, but I can't remember what the overlay was with the berm. The berm seemed like it went further out.
The berm went further out because of the spatial requirements that we would need to get up to
Requirements of the
elevation
berm.
12.
Yeah. Okay.
While keeping their proposed building in the same location. Again, here St. Anthony's is already on relatively high ground.
Got it.
This area here is well above elevation 12. Here
Okay.
in this scenario, we're actually using the buildings themselves that they're proposed as kind of like flood protection. If the building, is barrier, then we're basically in between the building, running deployables from this high ground, use the building here, and then this opening, and then there. So again, you kind of relying on the building to stop the flooding back here. Yeah, as far as how many houses, we'd have to count. I'm sure we could do something in GIS where we could put a box around those and probably count them easily, but we have not done that yet.
Thank you.
And this is just building upon an idea that Emmeline at Planning and Zoning had. Is again, there's a proposed development and it's potentially an opportunity for the town. Perhaps the town does not have to invest all of that money if there could be some coordination with the developer. So that's the idea behind advancing this one a little bit. All right, Riverside Creek. So here we have a combination of measures. There's no one size fits all. I would certainly deployable could snake around, but here we have the Tide Gate Bike area road being elevated. So the yellow is the raised road, and then we have this kind of tight community of all the houses here. And again, raising that road, we're at really low elevations, in some of these. Raising that road significantly is going to be potentially problematic for all of the homes there. So here we have the deployable just wrapping around this congested area of homes. And then again, here's an area where a berm could work. We have the spatial allowances. Again, it's a more sensitive marsh area, so there would be impacts that we would not need to discuss with the state, but perhaps, again, it could be dual purpose for pedestrian access.
There's an existing berm there now, right?
So building upon it. Right now it's really low. It's around elevation 7.
Oh, wow.
7 or 8.
Yeah, I was going to say 8.
Yeah. So somewhere light blue is 7 to 8. So building that up. Again, we have high ground here.
4 extra feet high.
And more berm area in the open space, and then wall deployable at the entrances to the road, to the marina, more wall deployable, and then wall again once we get to the elevated area over in Jennings at the dune. So that would protect. So this scheme helps protect. These homes over here are left vulnerable, but this scheme helps protect all of these other roads inside the marsh area. And you'll see another scheme where we don't do that, and we bring basically we're following the road, which leaves all of this area, all of these homes vulnerable.
But this
Instead
would
of
also protect, as are the roads in along South Benson Road. I mean, all those ones, Oyster Road, Clinton
Right.
Street, those would all be protected from this too, right? In this scenario?
Yeah, because we're going from here to high ground to high ground. Everything would
Everything
be
on that side of it.
yeah.
That's
Like that one will not protect Oyster Road or Milton Street. Milton Street and Oyster Road are still in the soup. The first one does.
the first one is what
That
I'm
one,
saying.
yeah.
So, and again, if this is an easy thing to do in GIS, if you could try to show how many houses are protected in each of these scenarios, again, if it's a hard thing, let's talk about that in terms of how much that would take, but if it's an easy thing to show,
I can do that.
it'd be good to see.
I'm
if
trying to hire them.
this protects, 100 houses, and the next one protects 20 houses or something. I'm making it up.
Only thing though, if you can just scroll down a little bit more, Andrew.
Scroll out.
Like for instance, I always thought there's a breach at the
At Jennings.
what is it, the country club and at Jennings. So if a storm surge came in,
So you'd also have to raise Beach Road.
see that's what I'm saying. It's not just one measure. You may have to do others as
Right,
well,
yeah.
just to highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case on a lot of these. Again, we went kind of site by site, but we'll see. Like we could go back to the model at some point, and we'll see that we just protect this one area. Eventually, that water will come around another area, unless we're again looking at this more continuously.
Yeah, or at least to protect it to the orange.
Yeah,
elevation.
again, by some time, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not going to add full protection.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. So again, deployable just along the road, so we leave a lot of areas vulnerable. And then this one, really just looking at Turney Road again, deployable where we have all the homes. We can get a wall here at the marina area where we have public space, and deployable at the entrance. Yeah, we've kind of combined two of them, but basically, certainly this one is more comprehensive. All right, we're senior center.
Quick question.
Yep.
In the printed summaries of the maps, for all the wall areas, you refer to sheet pile walls. Is there any magic in sheet pile, or could it be something else?
Yeah, I think I mentioned early on. Yeah, right now we're just saying wall. If it says sheet pile, it's just generic to be a wall. The type of wall would depend on the site-specific conditions. If it's a 3-foot wall, if it's a 8-foot wall, what the soil conditions are. Do we have the space for footing? It could be concrete wall, it could be a stone wall if it only needed to be a couple feet high. So the material is going to vary, and we're not going to be able to necessarily make those decisions at this point in time with the information and the data that we have to work with. We'd have to have a very site-specific survey. We'd have to have the geotechnical data to know exactly what kind of wall we would be building. But I get in general, it's meant to just be representative of a vertical wall up to elevation 12.
That's fine. Thanks.
All right. Senior center, similarly, just protecting the site. The orange is, again, the deployable. Here's walls where we can, leaving entrances to the parking areas as deployables. And that's really kind of the we could potentially, it'd be, I think, hard to justify something like a berm kind of on the marsh side, but I think the impacts of that compared to a wall, because we're limited in space on the, in kind of the existing shoreline edge and the parking lot. Moving on from that. So wastewater treatment. So wall along Richard White Way, again, deployables along Reef Road intersection here where we have these homes, potentially a berm within this open space area at the park, back to a wall, again, based on reducing impacts. One, you have these homes here, the berm would take up a lot of space into this marsh area if it were to be a berm. So we just tried to narrow that footprint up a bit. Deployables again along where we have the congestion of residential homes and driveway access points. Walls here along the pavilion area. And then back to deployables, and then again tying into high ground at the dunes. And again, I mean, this scenario protects landward, but it leaves all of this beach area vulnerable. Again, slightly different combination, following a slightly different path with deployables, different orientation on the berm, the same general sense of walls and berms where we think that they could work physically, and then deployables elsewhere. And again, here's where there's potentially some coordination, through the residential homes in this area here, but the impact there is relatively minor compared to some other where you'd have to snake around a lot. All right. I think the turning one we already looked at.
I don't think there was anything there.
Yeah, that was kind of picked up with
That was number 3 on
We
the
already done it, I think.
Riverside.
yeah. All right, and then we get into, again, beach road raising. Here's another one where you have elevations. We don't really have anything drawn here. Significant challenges, again, with elevations being as low as 7, with all of these, driveways, and it's going to be a challenge to do any significant elevation. Again, maybe you're looking at 6 inches, 12 inches, something like that at a time. But in order to advance, that we'd have to look at every single one of these homes and how, the driveway access would be, and whether or not, how high you could really get it. Certainly getting up to 12 is probably not practical at the east end. And the last one, we don't really have anything drawn for that yet. It's kind of still under thought development, as far as the peninsula out here. Again, we could have deployables on the road, but then you'd only be protecting half the homes. And I know we're looking at separately, potential of the bulkheads on the Pine Creek side. So with that, that's what I have to review today. We're not done. Certainly looking for your feedback, and what you think would work, what you think wants to be scrapped. Moving ahead, um, per our contract, we're supposed to be developing 16 concepts overall. Again, originally that became, or that the genesis of that was that there were 8 stretches along the entire town of Fairfield's coast, and it would be 2 concepts per 8 stretch, each of 8 stretches. Working with the town and with the board, based on the modeling, we collectively determined that didn't make a whole lot of sense. There were certain areas of the town that didn't really have any significant flooding. And then there are, areas, especially in the beach area, that have a lot. And so we decided to abandon the 2 per 8, 8. But we're still left with 16 concepts as part of our contract. So we have these 15 locations. So the idea is to advance basically one concept, for each of these sites, as kind of getting towards the goal of our contract. But we're certainly open to having a discussion. Maybe some of these, upon further consideration, don't make a lot of sense. And Dick at the last meeting had asked whether or not, going to 10% design on all of these, which is only just a few more, lines on in a CAD drawing, does that make a lot of sense as well, based on what we've kind of laid out to date on the GIS. So, I leave that, for further discussion. Certainly we're, I think, willing to, rethink how we move, into the final stage here. I guess with that, I'll shut up and either hand it over to Lindsay or any more questions that you guys have.
I have a question. When race gets to the deliverable step, are you going to include relative costs, like berms are $1,000 a
Yes.
foot, a wall is $4,000 a foot?
Yes. So actually, and I apologize, I failed to mention that kind of as we were working through these concepts, we have a spreadsheet that has different criteria. And so we're trying to rank, say, for instance, a berm versus a wall. If you get the same level of protection out of both, if you can achieve elevation 12, what are the pros and cons of one versus the other? At certainly at a particular site, again, are there impacts to wetlands at some of these sites? Are there logistics, for, say, deployables? And so we have different criteria in which we're ranking these to try and essentially weigh the pros and cons, but in a more objective way. Relative costs, relative construction impacts, permittability. Again, something with a lot more wetland impacts is going to be more scrutinized, with the state than something that's going to have less impact. So and part of that is cost, but yeah, a final concept will have relative cost. As you guys know, we have really Tiger Dam folks have provided some really detailed costs. But one of the things that we need to do, say if deployables is the solution, that we want to move forward with for one particular area. It's easy enough to, again, draw an orange line that says deployables. Taking it to a 10% concept level is looking at, based on the size of the tubes that they offer and our existing elevations and our proposed goal of 12, are we looking at a 3-tiered, solution of Tiger Dams or, something of that nature? So that's kind of taking what we have now to a slightly, bigger next step. But it's not much more than that at a 10% concept level. But, in doing so, we would know, okay, well, we need, from here to here, from, I apologize, I don't know all the side streets, but, from Reef to Beach, we need X feet, and it's going to be a 3-tiered system. So, we know how much, roughly that's going to cost. So yeah, that will be included.
I have a question, I think more for Bill. Bill, you've gotten the grid from Race, but we haven't gotten it yet for FERB yet. Have you? You didn't send it out to us yet, did you?
What grid?
The grid she's talking about. She's done a grid where they've ordered these and done some weightings.
I have it.
Andrew, have you published that grid, or is that just an internal document currently?
It's an internal document, but I thought it was included in information that Jacob sent after our last meeting.
If you go,
Oh,
if
I
I
don't
recall,
remember reading that. Okay.
if I recall, and again, it might be confusing.
What, is it a layer on the viewer?
No, it's an Excel. It's an Excel based.
Okay.
You have to like click on it, and then there's a couple of files.
Oh,
It's like a sub file, and then
Oh,
you
so-
have to.
Oh, it's a subfile of, because we
Of the
just clicked
link,
on it.
or
whatever,
We just
yeah.
clicked on it to get the viewer, so you're saying it was
Right.
on the sheet that we clicked on for the viewer?
Yeah.
It was on one of the other ones, okay. we
If
didn't-
not, let me know, and I can forward it or whatever.
Because I clicked on one of
Yeah,
them.
where I can make sure that you guys get it tomorrow morning.
I clicked
Were there
on
any other
something, and
files?
I got a whole list of JavaScript, which is.
I didn't click on anything else but the viewer, so I didn't realize it was
The
there.
one other thing, and I'm not sure where this comes into play, and only because I had this issue with the fire department when we were trying to do traffic calming on some issues. And with the deployables, obviously, I would prefer to have a berm or a wall, and then small sections of deployables, are possible. I think it's more realistic. But I'm using the one example where you cut across the whole beach area. You're doing a deployable on Reef and Beach and Roland, all those streets. And I could just imagine if we did that, say, 3 days in advance of a storm, and then that means anybody that's still there now has no way of getting out.
You have to park at veterans.
Or
Yeah.
conversely, the fire department might not have a way to get in. And so I don't know if that's going to be an issue with the fire department. So I'm just giving you a heads up because, as I said, we've proposed some things, traffic calming wise, and the fire department, we got to get in there. So I'm just bringing that
Yeah,
to
that
the
would very
attention.
much be an issue. 'Cause
Yeah.
We had that when we tried to do traffic islands down
Yeah,
Reef Road.
Right.
and-
That's, I'm just saying we'll have to get them involved for comments. Where we get them involved is another, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
So so in our schedule, how will can we build in time to get the other emergency management departments, in, particularly as it relates to deployables, it sounds like? Is there a way to, Lindsay, to build a little more time in there somewhere?
Yeah, I have it on the agenda to talk about the schedule. So maybe when we talk about the schedule, we can look at that and decide when that makes sense.
All right, well, let's close this out. So if she needs to leave, can leave and go get dinner.
Yeah, I don't need to leave, but let me if no one needs to look at the screen anymore, I'll stop sharing and turn it over. But I'm here for the duration.
Okay, so I think here's my sense. We were given, I think, on the schedule till the end of this week to come back with certainly the FERB comments, but that should be the FERB plus the town comments. So the question is, can we as FERB get all of our comments together by maybe, today's Tuesday, can we get them Thursday noon? And then we need to get Bill and Emmeline and Frank and everyone to add in their comments. And then, I don't know, Bill, do you want to have a quick meeting where we come up with a consolidated FERB town comments to give to them by Friday? How do you want to consolidate all the comments?
Well, I think the best would be is if they bring them to you and then you could bring them to me kind of thing.
All right, one of the reasons that I recast all of these items with the 2 or 3 scenarios for each location is that this is a Word document. We can each take this document and put our comments after the appropriate item.
Okay.
And then, and Becky can do hers in red, I'll do mine in green.
All right, I'm fine with that. If that's the way you want, I'm just trying to come up with ideas.
And then you have an item with everybody's comments there, and
But we can't just give a bunch of comments to that. We have to.
No,
then
no,
come
we
up
have
with
to
a-
condense them,
So Bill and I
right,
can
yeah.
sit
This is
together
what
and come
goes-
up with
yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
So what
I'll see if
We'll get Emmeline
Frank's
to do the same
available
thing
on
and-
Friday or something, but yeah.
I'm pretty
Get
available
them
on
to you
Friday.
Thursday,
So Thursday
say
noon.
by noon, then,
Thursday noon.
yeah, just in
I'll-
case someone's off Friday, we can maybe meet Thursday afternoon.
Thursday noon, we'll have the FERB comments to me. Does that sound good?
Yep.
And then Bill, you'll set up something for Friday or Thursday late afternoon
Right, yeah.
if someone's away. All right, so we have a plan. Let's move on then to master plan. So I don't know, Lindsay, if you want to just share the updates that you have, timeline updates and things like that, just so everyone's on the same page on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to share my screen here.
Did you get your house pumped out?
um, not we do have a sump pump, but luckily it didn't require that. We only got just about an inch of water, but yeah, we were able to dry it out. Thank you for asking. I hope others here were not impacted by
1.7.
today.
In 30 minutes here, and I know there were more rain.
Okay, so we just went through the coastal strategies, and I had it to go to the hazardous analysis update next, but we can go to schedule next if that's preferred. Just let me know.
No, go ahead and go the order you have. I know
Okay,
that there's some people on that very interested in the inland strategy piece, but go ahead.
Great.
We'll just keep going through.
So just a quick update on the hazardous analysis. So we went ahead and got started with the inland sites, the reason being that the way that hazardous works is that we use the geometries from the project areas and intersect it with census tracts. It's a census tract level analysis. And so we want to wait until we have the coastal strategies in a place where the geometries sort of match what would be the most useful information for this. But that said, we can take a look at the approach that we have for the inland strategies and then match that strategy, that approach for the coastal strategies. So that one should go quicker. So the project team has gotten started. To give you a sense of how this works, they said that a good way to think about HAZIS is that it's like a BCA light. And so the data that is included in HAZIS, it's a FEMA tool, is reported to FEMA through the hazard mitigation planning process. And so the data in there is the national structure inventory. And what we were also able to do is input the flood mesh that we created for the flood viewer for this project. So that's what you're looking at here, is the inland project areas in pink, and the graphics we're able to edit and change the colors for the plan. So this is to go over the process, but all of that can be changed. And that first step is to intersect it with the census tracts.
So I have a question.
I have no idea. what
That
it
is, we have other inland projects that we're doing, for example, at the golf course in Tungus Hill that are also in progress that you're not doing.
Yeah.
Will HAZIS incorporate that as well? Or is it only gonna look at what you're proposing versus what the total town of Fairfield is doing?
Do you have project even approximate geometries for those sites?
What do you mean by geometry? You mean footprint or watershed? What?
Well, because we end up using the census tracts anyway, I think it could just be as simple as looking at the map of the census tracts and saying this project sort of spans these two census tracts, or it's contained within this census tract. And then the team let me know that that would be pretty simple to add if you have additional areas you wanted to add.
Yeah. Basically, it's the Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course
Yep.
and Tunsis Hill Park. Those are the two areas.
Yeah, 'cause I think this should be a total inland, this should be everything the town is doing, not just what you're recommending. And maybe you can even break it into two. We're already doing this and it has this impact and has this.
Yeah.
If you add in these other inland strategies, it has XYZ impact or whatever.
I'm really stupid. What is this census tract thing? What are we getting like populations in the areas that we're going to mitigate? Are we getting rich people, poor people in the area? I don't know what we're looking at here.
So you're not wrong that census tracts are very commonly thought of as population because they are used for the census, right, which is a count of the population. But it's also a way of recording and summarizing the data. And so basically, a census tract compared to like a neighborhood, for example, is a smaller geometry. And so we're able to, so I believe HAZIS goes down to the block group level. And what we're able to do is summarize at the block group level through HAZIS the estimated economic losses or damages to properties. It gives data like who would, the number of people who would likely be displaced and in need of shelter in a 100-year storm, or the scenarios that we are studying using this tool. And so it's a way of summarizing down to a smaller geometry without going down to like the individual property level. Does that help?
No. No, I don't know where we're going. It's like, how many houses am I protecting by doing this? And
Yes.
I don't know.
That's what it is, but it goes by neighborhood rather than number of houses. But they
It's slightly
have a
one
formula
step
to figure
bigger.
it out.
It's a way of trying to measure impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a different mapping protocol. I just looked it up. It's a different way of looking at the geography tied into, you mentioned it before, trying to evaluate the number of homes or the value of the property relative to a slice of land when we're making decisions about how we're going to spend the town's money.
Right.
This is what it is.
And this would assume, again, you're going to be proposing a series of mitigation approaches for each of these. Does the HAZIS that analysis you're doing assume that we do every single one of those? So let's say you come and say in this particular spot, we want to do a detention area here and permeable pavement here, and we want to do a little berm over here. So you're going to show an analysis that if we do everything, it equals this level of protection, or are you going to, how will we know?
So the HAZIS analysis is what's called a cost of no action. So this is, consider it like your baseline. This is the cost, the damage to be expected if you do nothing.
This is the do nothing analysis in essence.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's a good way to think about it.
And stick with me on the census tracts, because I think in 2 slides it's going to start to make a little more sense. So then the HAZIS tool also has essential facilities, critical facilities. If you participated at all in your regional or local hazard mitigation planning, that may sound familiar, but critical facilities are, things like schools, buildings that function as shelters in emergencies, things listed here, right? Medical care facilities, emergency operations centers, fire stations, police stations. And so the HAZIS analysis also gives an estimate of essential facilities expected to be damaged in the scenarios. And we're still working on fine tuning. I have this going through tech review now, but to sort of give an understanding of why this is drilled down instead of the neighborhood level to a census tract or a census block group, which is a smaller geographic area, is so that you can see on a relative scale where the economic losses are projected by this tool to be greater, which is more helpful if you're able to look as local as possible.
Now, one question, when it says economic loss, is that for each color, and then you have to add all that up to come up with the number?
So I have a draft of the report, which if I'm able to get that through tech review, I'm happy to share to sort of react to and make tweaks to that as our sort of proposed memo report format.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lindsay, why don't you finish your thing and maybe some of the questions get answered, and then we'll hold more.
Absolutely.
Okay, yep.
But it does include a total in that report, like a total estimate for all of the expected economic losses. One of the comments that I provided to the team was I felt that going from 10 million up to 1 billion seemed like a big jump there, especially given that this highest threshold isn't on this map. And so I think one of the things you'll see in the next iteration of this is just adjusting this scale a little bit so it's a little bit more meaningful for the scale of that we have here. And in terms of the scenarios that we are looking at, they match the flood viewer. So this is the 10-year and the 100-year present, which is 2025. That's when we did the analysis, and future, so 2050.
$10 and $100, right, is what you said? 10 and 100, I just went with it. Okay.
But then she's also said the 2050, then 2050 would include sea level rise. Well, actually, none of those actually, part of the downtown would have sea level rise impacts. The commerce
I think she
area.
was doing 2025 and then for year 2050.
Oh, okay. But most of these won't have sea level impacts. Most of the geography fit for inland.
Yeah, unless it's near the coast.
Yeah. Okay.
So the coastal flood layers, we have 10-year, 25-year, and 100-year. So we could potentially use all three. It just depends what you're interested in. But we have all three of those layers from race, so we can use them.
And that's just a calculation, putting that into the formula. You could actually show us all three fairly easily, and it would just spit out the different level for each of those? Or is it a big deal do we need to tell you which ones we want?
I'd say it's medium. Like it definitely is like having to rerun the analysis with that scenario. But we have the flood layers from race. So if you're interested in all three, I can tell them.
I mean, the inland snapshots should match the coastal snapshots. Like if it's 10-year, 25-year, and 100-year, then the same thing should be done for the rain and the watersheds in the inland.
Well, it's just, yeah, you want to be consistent.
For inland, they did 2025 and 2050. So what would that be from a coastal? So 2050 is 20 inches of sea level rise.
This is all CERC data, right, from state of Connecticut, or that's the baseline?
Well, that's for coastal. The inland is based on the projected rain.
Rain scenario.
Right, yeah, from the
From whoever
FEMA
does
or
that.
NOAA,
So you said you did 2025 and 2050 for inland?
For inland, it's the 10-year and the 100-year. For coastal, we additionally have a 25-year.
Okay, so these don't really tie to actual years. These are projected storm levels. A 10-year storm and a 100-year storm.
Yes,
For the frequency, the repeat frequency.
exactly.
What are, I mean, with rain bombs, we're getting 100-year storms every 3 to 5 years now. Right? I mean, like today, what would that be considered?
1.7 inches in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's past the 10-year, it's probably on its way, it's probably a 25-year. But again, this is just for economic analysis is what.
Right, but that's what, but I guess what I'm hearing is we want to be consistent between inland and coastal, but we also
Keith,
want.
I don't know if Keith is stretching or if he has a question.
But I think we want to,
Oh, okay.
we want to be able to, I'm more interested in saying what's going to happen in 2050, because that's really the impact that we're going to be telling the town, you need to be spending this amount of money between now and 2050 if you want to have this level of protection.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're doing that, it's just that in 2025, it's 10 and 100 for inland, and for 2050, it's 10 and 100.
Right, but right now, the 100-year storm per FEMA is projected to be once every 100 years. And we're getting it every 3 to 5 years.
Well, it's a 1% probability. They're
Right,
trying to
yeah.
change the term.
But I think we're, honestly, the whole
8.4
idea is that by 2050, we're going to see a 100-year storm, not a 100-year storm will be the 10-year storm of 2050. Right?
25 or
Or
something.
at least 25. So I
If
think
it
we need to.
continues at the rate, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we need to be clear with our exact team when we present this. What is it we're showing
That would
them?
be a
We're
comment.
showing them a vision of 2050, 24 years from now. This is what we should expect to see this 100-year level, maybe every 4 years then, you're saying, 25 years.
But again, for this has us modeled, they're just modeling.
I know, but we need to translate that into something that they don't care about a technical model. Our Board of Selectmen don't care about a technical model. What they care about is, what will my town look like 24 years from now? And what do I need to be protecting us from 24 years from
The
now?
residents don't care about that either.
They don't care about a technical model. They want to
How much
know,
water is going to be in my street and what are you doing about it?
yeah, in 20 years, what should I expect in my neighborhood? And how much would it cost to protect against that?
Why didn't you tell me? Sue?
Keith, I see you have your hand raised.
He needs to
Can you
unmute
unmute?
himself.
See if you can unmute yourself. Prue could help you unmute if you
Drew,
can.
can you unmute Keith?
Oh, there it goes.
Now I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. There were times I'm not sure if I was here for all of it. I had to go to pay the guy who was trying to pump all the water out of my basement from the storm today. Yeah, I must tell you, it's really this to me. I know we have to do this as a board. You have to do this as a board. I don't have to do it anymore. As a board, I know you have to do these plans and all that. This is a bit like watching Nero fiddle while Rome burns, right? Today, we had another rain bomb,
Yep.
Yep.
right? And the water on Route 59 was probably about, I don't know, 2.5 feet. It was up to my mid calf, and I'm 6'7". The water in my neighborhood was so great that it backed up the now sealed manhole covers and buckled about, I don't know, 10, 15 feet of the street. So we're talking about things, and proposals were put forth that could have mitigated this.
Heath, let's not
yeah.
talk about the past. I hear you and I share your frustration. I'm
sorry. If I'm gonna, and let me just finish, and then I'll stop. Right? I've listened to everything that's been going on today. Do something now.
Okay, that is something I would like you to share with your first selectman and your elected officials.
We will do that.
You have to do that.
But
You have to do that because
flood
this is not
board,
the forum
the
to
flood
share it.
board has proposals before them about mitigating that could be done now. We have put these things off. The things could have been done before this storm today. Those things will be brought forth to our first select people and first select person and to our politicians.
The pipe
But
is
we
10 by
must
3.
do something now.
Okay, and we don't have that now yet. And that's what this process is. And I know it's frustrating to go through this process, but we need to go through this process where we understand what the now options are, and we're not there yet. And I know it's frustrating that we got a rain bomb before we got there. I hear it. I get it. It's frustrating.
The current storm design for basically in that area is probably a 5-year storm. As I mentioned before, we were at a minimum of a 25-year storm. Now, of course, that this has happened in 2021 and 2018.
It's become a
Right,
5-year
right.
storm,
But,
which
yeah.
would have been a 100-year storm. That's why I'm
And
saying,
one of
so,
the proposals was a 10 by 3 box culvert. But if we do a 10 by 3 box culvert in that neighborhood, then the condos just below Owen Fish get bombed out because now the water, because their channel isn't sized for.
They got,
so it's
they
a-
got bombed out today. All
Yeah.
of those garages were open and they were pumping, they had their wet vacs in the garages, so.
And on that one there, even, there was a proposal to raise the wall, the flood wall there, and they did, at that time, didn't want.
but maybe they'll want it now.
That's,
So I think,
So
the
we
good
will
news,
definitely revisit.
the bad news of what we got today is that people are going to re-examine some things that maybe they
But
didn't want to
rather
be wall.
quickly, Keith, and as you know, I have somebody in my office that lives right around the corner from you, so I was aware of this. But any pictures, and especially as we keep on getting the denial from the state that Route 59 doesn't flood, so anything, any video you or your neighbors have, definitely send it to us, because that will definitely help the ammunition.
NBC News had something on too. It's on the Instagram, which I'll send to you. which
But
was
we,
showing-
I mean, I don't mind continuing it after, but we do have 2 consultants, Keith, that are here, and
Yeah,
they're
let's
not
finish
going to
up.
be able to do anything right
But I
now.
think the point I was trying to make is that the 100-year storm in these models is actually now at least a 25-year storm, if not a 10-year storm.
So anything from the 80s or 90s has now
Yeah.
been shifted way over.
So calling it a 100-year storm isn't realistic, is probably not a helpful tool in the world of 2050.
And it was all over town. We had North Pine Creek was flooded.
Oh, we were flooded down
The
at the
underpass
beach.
was flooded at the beach. Kings Highway got flooded.
I think I mentioned,
I was coming from-
I mentioned to Lindsay in an email that God was executing the blue spot plan
Yeah,
today.
right, yeah, but the Brodsky got hit. I mean, everywhere in town got hit.
So what would be helpful, Lindsay, for us to do? Let me just try and print this out.
I think,
What would you like us to give you as direction here?
yeah, I think that we can absolutely use the executive summary to, talk about what we're actually seeing on the ground in terms of frequency and, what these terms mean, what they're going to mean in our report, but then also what Fairfield's experiencing, right? And in terms of selecting the scenarios, I will follow up with Indrani and Azure, and I will put forth a recommendation because I think I want to understand, just because I've inherited this project as a project manager, why we had the 25-year for the coastal and not for the inland. I suspect it might have been just to, with the blue spot analysis, highlight some areas that maybe weren't showing up with one scenario, or possibly because of another reason that sea level rise is meaningful at the 25-year horizon. So we'll follow up with that with a recommendation, but I think it's easy to add the scenarios that we want to see from the HAZIS team. So all we have to do is let them know which ones, and they already have the 10 and the 100-year, so it's just a matter of adding the 25-year. We're not able to do that for the inland because we don't have that blue spot, but we could we could do it with the FEMA layers if we wanted to see that too. So
And I think in the inland, frankly, the 100-year is probably the one to look at because rain bombs are where the impact is. And that's what,
Right.
that's what the 100-year is. So I think that's the appropriate one to look at for inland. Okay.
So we'll follow up on that one, and I'll send over a status update on that. But to keep us moving, I wanted to follow up. Audrey and Becky, did you have the chance to talk about what you might like to do with the bulkhead and whether you want to do something before the August 5th?
We didn't get a chance to talk. I can give you, maybe Ezra and I can follow up with a phone call, or I could just quickly share. What I want to do with the bulkheads is talk to Deep about it on August 5th with the intent of conceptually just saying what this plan is doing for the town of Fairfield is looking at a scenario, a 2050 scenario where we're projecting up to 20 inches of sea level rise. And if that happens, the low bulkheads that we are right now being asked by Deep to look at are going to mean we're going to have regular flooding in certain areas. It's going to come right across the road and be a safety evacuation issue. And what I want to accomplish is to have Deep say, yes, if you're planning for 2050, we can't keep forcing you to keep these low bulkheads because we can't put you in a safety issue. And that's, I don't know how, Azure, we create that messaging in a stronger way, but if Deep keeps making us have these bulkheads be at that 6 to 6.5 level, we will get regular safety issues and we will not be able to evacuate 220 houses, potentially. And that's a safety issue that we as a town don't want to take. And we could go back and talk about the fact that, we started with 12-foot bulkheads, went to 8-foot bulkheads, and the Deep somehow made us go down to this 6.5. And we want
Again,
to go
just
back.
highlight that when you say 8, 6.5, 12, that's the elevation of the
Elevation, yeah. And that's not a risk we are willing to take as a town going forward, knowing that we're going to have 20 inches of sea level rise and having a safety evacuation issue. So I don't think we need to necessarily show drone pictures. I don't think we necessarily, I can take a couple pictures of these low bulkheads, but we could also show some cams where the neighbors, I know some neighbors that were forced to have these low bulkheads that they didn't want to, and they were forced to by Deep, have these low bulkheads. And we could use those as examples if that's helpful.
Were you planning on having them identify where these low ones were?
Well, that was the only
That's
thing,
what I
that's the
thought.
only thing I think, if maybe you could do a GIS mapping and just sort of circle a couple of the low areas. It doesn't even need to be all of them. It's sort of a conceptual discussion.
It's almost like a breach plan, where obviously if their bulkhead's at 6 and the storm surge gets to elevation 7, well.
There's a foot of water.
There's 5 spots that it went through or 10 spots or whatever.
And it goes along the whole road and now you can't get your emergency vehicles down there. And that's going to only get worse with 20 inches of sea level rise. So
and
I don't
the
know.
question at our last meeting was, so we have an August 5th meeting scheduled with the regulator, is whether we think it makes the most sense to sort of bring this up with the regulator and then go out into the field and circle the low area.
Yes.
Or
I think we bring it up. I think we bring it up with them and show them a couple examples.
Yeah, I was just going to
We
say,
have a
grab a
series
couple
these.
of elevation 6s recently done or whatever, and just say, here's an example. Here's one that was elevation 11 back in the 90s, and then here's one where,
They just put in
they relaxed the requirements, and now,
Or
when
they
you get a
made more
storm surge of
requirements.
7, it goes over.
So I don't know, I could get a couple examples and send them to Azure of just houses that I know have low bulkheads. Would that be helpful? Azure, you're muted.
She can't unmute.
Oh, no.
Oh, you can't
Prue,
unmute.
Prue,
Can
can you?
can you
Prue,
unmute?
can you unmute Azure?
No, she can use chat.
I'm trying to find, oh, here she is.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I wrote in the chat. I think we can use GIS to have that conversation with Deep. And again, I don't think we need to get into specifics of this house, that house, but in general to demonstrate that a lot of these are low lying, and during the storms and during future sea level rise scenarios, yeah, it's going to cause more flooding on the road.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we could do that for GIS for that purpose, because I would say that in general the rear yards are probably somewhat coincident with the tops of the bulkheads.
Okay, so I think, again, it's a conceptual discussion. It's getting, the ideal scenario is Deep agrees with us that the town should be able to set the bulkhead height, not Deep. That's my
That's our goal.
That's the goal.
Don't know if that's gonna
And I guess,
happen, but we have to try. And
I think we have to try, and if they say no, then we'll say, you're putting us at a safety risk, and why are you doing that?
Do we know what other towns are doing or how they handle bulkhead height?
That's a good question.
It's just a,
I would hope that Deep treats everyone the same.
They do. Dick, they're equal opportunity.
Yeah, busters.
No to everyone. But
No,
the
well,
other-
I would say that I'm not sure that as many towns have, the consecutive nature of bulkheads like you guys do on Pine
Right.
Creek. But I mean, Deep's policy has been certainly under certificate of permission, which is a maintenance permit to replace and repair these types of structures, is 12 inches. And that 12 inches does not consider whether the existing bulkhead is elevation 5 or elevation 10 or elevation 20. Everybody gets another 12 inches with justification. So it's a little, I mean,
we didn't get
it's a
that.
little
My neighbors
arbitrary.
did not get that.
Yeah, well, you might recall the Perry Green.
Perry's Green did
example.
not get that.
No, Perry Green got about
Yes,
3 or
well,
4.
that's-
We asked Perry's
under-
Green for a full foot, and we did not get it. So we are not getting 12 inches. If that's their policy, we are not getting it now.
Well, it's
Well,
up
it's
to-
it's
yeah,
up
listen,
to 12 inches with well, I thought Perry's Green went up a little bit higher with under structural dredging and fill.
No, it went
No?
up an inch or two, and
Yeah.
it did not get to 12. We asked for a full foot,
Yeah.
and we did not get it. I know that.
The very lowest spot might have been like 7 or 8 inches, but the overall was about 3 to 4 inches.
Yeah. But this policy and it's not even a policy, it's a line on the COP application that if you check more than 12 inches, you automatically get disqualified from that application type. And then that would kick you into the structures dredging and fill, which is the longer process. And at that point they say, well, if it's more than 12 inches, we consider it a new structure and you need to justify a new flood and erosion control structure at this location because you can't, because you don't meet a certain criteria for pre-95 home in jeopardy, public infrastructure, so on and so forth.
But I think
So
that
it's-
conversation has to be
but-
had, because
I think so too, and I would love to have it again, certainly in the context of Fairfield and Pine Creek, but in general, like 12 inches when you have a bulkhead at 5 or a bulkhead at 12 makes no sense. It should be relative to something.
yeah, we don't need a full
Or at
foot.
least
If the bulkhead's already 12, we don't need a full foot.
Relative to sea level.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the intent of this discussion, and I think if we could do a rough GIS just to show that there's a bunch of low points, that would be enough to start the discussion. And we may not, we may not get anywhere with it, but I think we have to have it.
Great.
And then housing, we have an Excel spreadsheet that is somewhat flawed. It was done by our intern. We do have that. That MetroCog printed it off for us. And there's some houses that are missing from that were elevated, and there are some that weren't categorized at all. So I don't know how helpful, honestly, that is.
Okay.
What we were trying to think about is whether we could kind of look at that and try and do an estimate at least of, based upon what he did do, were 30% of the houses elevated? Was it 40%? Was it 20%? I don't know if that's even helpful.
Why don't you send me what you have and I'll take a look at it and see. I was
That
talking.
spreadsheet by itself is useless.
Because
It doesn't tell you anything.
well, it tells you which ones he did look at that are elevated and which ones he didn't look at that were not elevated. But it's missing whole areas, I think.
the town clerk doesn't have this in the tax records for property, based on last year's property
You're looking for
valuation.
something to do, I have a job for
I know you
Figure
do.
this
I
out.
mean, we could go and sit with the building department and even with planning and zoning and just go through every single file of the past 10 years of people who have put in a submission to raise their house.
I think
And-
there's an automatic code in the, we'll continue this afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'd be glad to.
Unless there's a way, maybe if they had a file, a
Offline,
camera.
offline conversation.
Next.
All right, so we don't have an answer for you on housing. Sorry. Let us keep working on that.
Carolyn, did you have a hand raised?
Well, I was just going to say the problem is that there are so many houses that are being bought and raised like on a daily basis that what we knew 2 years ago is totally insignificant, really, and so it's changing every day. So I'm with Becky. We'll take it offline right now.
Yeah.
But that
Okay.
was it. Yeah.
One option, and I will have the team write this up, but we have budget in that task, and if we think that the housing data might not be good enough to make what we originally talked about valuable, there is something called the FEMA FAST tool. I think you probably talked about it back when you were making the decision to do HAZIS. And if you did have assessor data, basically it would be a way that you could have some additional information on like a parcel by parcel basis, depending on the data that you do have. So I could have them send over just sort of what that looks like. One example they had is like if you had the information about foundation types, for example, you might be able to run an analysis that tells you something about that. So basically the difference between the FEMA FAST tool and the HAZIS tool is that the HAZIS tool uses the national structure inventory, whereas FEMA FAST tool, you would be able to, if you had assessor data, upload that data set and run it on that data set. We could potentially do something using that tool for the housing analysis to look at a particular neighborhood, or we could do it on town-owned properties if that's of interest. I could have them send over some ideas if you wanted to potentially pivot that task based on the data that you have.
What is that name? FEMA FAST? FAST?
Yeah.
Let us look into that and maybe talk to our assessor and just see if he knows anything about that and how he's coded.
Yeah, and they said that they could send over an example spreadsheet of the data inputs that they would need. So you could take that spreadsheet to the assessor and be like,
That'd be
could
perfect.
you get me these data points easily with what you've got?
That'd be great if you could do that.
All this data was collected last year as part of the reevaluation and the tax increase and the mill rate negotiations.
It didn't seem to, when I looked on the field card, I didn't see anything about raised versus not raised, but maybe there's some code that I wasn't aware of.
People made improvements at their
Or you
house.
can make an assumption that if they made improvements more than 50%, then obviously.
But
they
you don't know if it's
included the raise.
50%. You just know that they did an
No,
If they
improvement in
didn't,
this
if
year.
they didn't report.
All right, offline.
All right, it's the only time we get to talk.
We're good.
All right, next.
So following the meeting, I will send out this version of the inland strategies. I just wanted to sort of show you what this will look like. And so you will have the blue spot analysis, which we're sort of calling the existing condition for each site, and then the proposed inland strategy as a first preliminary version of each of these sites for comments. I did pull them into the presentation just for sizing for now. And I have some questions from our tech review on them. And then I'll share out that PDF following the call.
Okay.
So the first one, the question that this is the downtown train station area, and the design team put this together. So I apologize. My you know, I will be relaying questions back to them for the most part. But one of the questions that sort of came up here is whether, and this might be a question for Emmeline, but whether in your zoning code or anything like that, whether we would have to note here that this might lead to a reduction in parking spaces.
Oh, bad.
Well, actually, in
Big
our
comment.
code, we are supposed to have trees planted in parking areas to reduce the heat island effect.
And we ignore that.
Yeah, but
We-
that's
we
for
shouldn't
this, for
ignore
this
it.
one.
We
Hot
shouldn't
spot.
ignore it.
But it at least can be asked and figure out. I think we'd have to find out what the current status is of how many permits. For many years, there was a waiting list. And if I told you we were losing 2 spaces, they were flipped out. Maybe now things are a little
I think it's gotten
different.
a little better, because now that
But
you've
it's got a little bit, but.
Fairfield
we still
Metro
wanna-
is full every day. It's full.
But we can look into that, but that's the first thing, when I saw the drawing here, I'm like, that looks like a loss of about 40 spaces. And don't know how well it's gonna fly, but,
Okay. Well, I will follow up with Emmeline. I want to know that information, and I also think
Sure.
that we want to think about that going into the public meeting. How this is presented. So
Look, Keith, look.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh,
I'm pissed,
fish.
here we go.
yeah, I heard this was flooded today. So this is Owen Fish Park, and this one is showing the floodable field here.
Okay, that pond story, okay.
So what do you want from us from this right now? Are you,
Sorry, I had some notes on the tech review flagged, and I was just seeing if there was any on this one. Oh, Keith.
I can report not a model, but what actually happened. So you have 4 million square feet in Owen Fish Park. About less than up to the third base line had any water at all. So less than 10% of Owen Fish Park in the rain bomb today had any water at all. I went and talked to the people who were at Strathmore condos, and the water was coming in but not only from the Rooster River, but from the flood drains on the street. So anything that keeps the water out of that going down 59 is to their advantage. If we were to put the water that was coming through the yards into Route 59 into Owen Fish Park, you would have less flooding downstream, right? And that whole area it only has to hold water for less than an hour, because in basically 30 minutes after the end of the rain bomb, the Rooster River was holding the water just fine and was keeping it. There was no more water going into those condos. But going down Little Island Drive was a river, was a 3-foot river. You want to stop the flooding of Route 59 and the rest of the flooding is you got to keep the water into someplace else. And sorry if this is relitigating from before, but we could have had a Tiger Dam doing the same job as we have planned for $3 million of building a permanent structure. We could have had a Tiger Dam sitting there for 3% of that cost, for less than $100,000, including timing for putting it up. And so if you and putting box walls for not only Owen Fish Park, right, to get the water to go into Owen Fish Park, but you could have for pennies by comparison, you could have all of those frontage of the condos to be protected by box walls because they go up very quickly and they're very cheap by comparison to any permanent structure.
Okay, so Keith, we don't have a plan yet for that. We don't have an insurance plan for that. We don't know if the town would put them up, if we would have, I don't think the town would be able to, from an insurance standpoint, let the neighborhood, I know you're very interested in looking at neighborhood associations putting these things up, but I just don't think from an
And
insurance
to
standpoint.
be honest with you also, if it was.
From an insurance standpoint,
Put up permanently, there's the risk of also vandalism, and we've already had tide gates vandalized.
sorry, okay, now there's lots of, you've brought up
Yeah.
a number of different issues,
But
right?
the original,
Let's go back. If
but
you
Keith, just
want to
go
bring
back
up
to
the issues, let's get the answers to them.
The original issue of the detention pond very much is what they're showing here is very similar to what the original detention pond was. But again, according to the SLR engineers, that would only provide storage for a 5-year storm, and therefore they were recommending not to do it due to the impacts of the field and only a 5-year storm. Now, 5-year storm still provides storage versus
Nothing.
downstream, so
Nothing.
there was something, but it
Yeah.
wasn't, so we are still investigating all that. I know it's not what you want to hear, but the biggest thing here is the town can't do any harm, and if we do harm, then we're in trouble. Right now, we're not in trouble, so unfortunately.
If we do, if you can never do any harm and you don't know what the harm is, that doesn't make any sense. But two, if you have the water there and you put up box walls to prevent anything from going near where the overflow of the pond, right, which doesn't happen. I checked there today. It does not happen.
Whoa. Well, again, offline, we have pictures of the pond overflowing, so
It
another
didn't happen
story.
today is what happened.
Overflowing into the field, right?
No,
To
into
the
the,
field, it goes in the other direction. It doesn't go near the condos.
It goes where the arrow is shown on this plan. That's where it goes.
Oh, let's move to the next concept, but this is the purpose of the comment period. Please provide your comments and we will record all of them.
so do you want comments on these plans by Friday too, or when?
So I am going to be out until I'm back August 7th. So I think for my purposes, you can provide comments by August 7th, and that's okay.
What about the meeting with
I would prioritize the coastal strategies comments because also moving those forward
Oh,
helps
that's
us
very
to
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we have till
Demonstrations as well.
August 7th to get comments back on these, but when will we get these? Are these ready for?
I'm going to send these to you tomorrow.
Okay, so August 7th.
All right, so that's the key. The coastal comments still need to be done by Thursday, the
Thursday, yeah.
inland by August 5th or 7th, sorry.
Which means we need to back it up and do comments by August 3rd or something, so that we can then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Comments on inland by, let's say, August 3rd. I'm making up August 3rd, and then.
Yeah, the timeline on the coastal is a bit longer because we're going to do the illustrations of those, so that helps.
And by August 7th, we need town comments to you guys.
So the tech review flagged here, whether reducing tree canopy, whether we'd have to replant.
Are you proposing reducing tree canopy at this point? So this
I'm
would-
assuming that putting the bioretention here probably resulted in a loss of a few trees is what that comment is referring to.
Right. Some trees and brush, and same along with Hillcrest.
I don't know what our forestry guidelines are, but I thought you had to replant.
Not necessarily. But there is the potential of that, but that's something that town would do.
Okay.
But this is an option. All right, continue.
Okay, well, if that's something we need to note, we'll just note that in the.
But you'll send us these comments when you send these, so that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, now we've got another underpass. This is the North Benson Road underpass, another bioretention underground storage.
That's gonna be a tough one.
The Riverfield School. I think my next comment was on this one here, the Little Brook Marion neighborhood. Was a question about this cul-de-sac here, and whether you would anticipate that there might be pushback on having the what is this bioretention shown here.
And that would be inside the paved area, or could that be on people's lawns next to the paved area?
It looks to me like it's in the paved area. Let's zoom in here. No, I think that's in the paved area.
That's what it shows,
Because you might get more traction if you did it right on their lawns and we
in
paved
the
it.
right of way.
Yeah, the right.
Well,
of
you
way.
could, you could pipe it right into the public space at the back end of the ball field there, where it's stream bed retention. You don't have to do it on the roadways there. 100 foot beyond, you have the whole sloping stream bed going down.
Down here.
Yeah.
They're just saying to retain some of the water coming from there.
I have a separate plan. I'll send it to you in the comments, but just to give you a quick thing. If you look at Fairfield Woods, Marion, and that cul-de-sac you were just talking about, there's a very, very big green area there. And that is a wetland area. And if there's a way, if you can imagine the horseshoe shape almost of following the property line and maybe doing a berm there, could we do some storage there is what I thought of as a potential.
Is that public property, the wetland thing?
I have to double check. I believe it is. That's one of the things I have to check.
Is that like behind this house
Right there,
here?
yeah, right, yeah, that whole parcel there. Although right now, if that is the tax map, I know we have an easement, and that's the thing, but if that's the case, I'm looking at that house, and that looks like they own all that property. We may have a conservation easement to it, so I'd have to look in. If it's not town property, and it's an easement, then it might be a different story.
Well, then we could possibly offer
But
them.
yeah, that would be a potential.
We could offer them a tax
potential.
reduction in order to build a berm there. If we give someone a tax reduction on their property, that would be.
Just for conceptual, because obviously when you do a final, you gotta make sure that as the water builds up, as you're trapping it, that it doesn't
Flow
flood
over, yeah.
the neighbors, so.
Do your potential berm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I will relay that back to the design team.
Mhm.
We've got Horse Tavern Brook.
Yeah, I just pause here for a minute, because this is the first time we're looking at this one completely. So what do we got going on here? Bioretention basins, bioswales, conveyance. Just for those, if you follow this whole thing, there's not a single piece of town property along
But
Horse
again,
Tavern.
if what's our option to use the easement to do these bioretention? So maybe you reduce the storage, but you do it within our easement.
Right,
Would allow us-
either that or you reduce the,
Is that Valley Road, are we looking at the Valley Road area there?
yes.
Wilson Street, Valley Road.
Yeah, Valley Road.
I have pictures of Valley Road. It was a river.
Yep. Oh,
A
today?
river.
Oh,
That
sure.
would make sense. That's, as I said, I don't think there was an area in town that was exempt.
Please share your photos for the final plan. It's very helpful.
Yep.
This is Valley Road, if you want to see what it looks like.
Yep. And again, Valley Road, we did a study, five-year storm. We would have to widen it curb to curb and make it all deep and lose the whole park in order to have to a 10-year storm. And,
Yeah, and it's narrow as that we speak.
Yep.
It's very narrow.
We will send you those pictures.
Yeah.
I just got another one from that same resident, Becky.
Thank you. All right, let's keep going.
Black Rock Turnpike.
Oh, and just for clarification, at the four-way intersection, Black Rock and Congress, you have it labeled as Congress. That's the entrance ramp to the Merritt
Okay.
for that. And I think the stream back restoration and the bioretention, they may be on state right of way, so we'll have to look at that. But definitely a possibility. You know, sometimes the state likes these type of projects.
Okay, I can look into that. State right of way for the Merritt. Or would it be interstate?
Merritt or Black Rock Turnpike, yeah. That's
Got it.
And for instance, like the porous pavement, if that thing is, say, the next 2 or 3 years to be repaved, that would be the time to get it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, we could look at, I mean, they have a whole paving plan for the town, so let's figure out when.
Now, this is
that's
state though,
That'd be
yeah. that
state.
would be the state.
State.
Okay.
Yep, that's good.
I will look into that.
Yep.
And then Mill Plain Road.
Yeah, I have some comments on that. You got underground utilities, unfortunately, we're on the Post Road and Mill Plain Road. That may, it's again, the bioswale is only 9 inches deep, that may be
Bioswale has to be
okay,
more than
but
9 inches deep.
But,
It goes 6 inches, 6 feet usually, right, bioswales?
well, again, it all depends, like the rain garden is
The
only
rain
9
gardens
inches,
are,
so yeah.
yeah, but the bioswale goes like 6 feet.
One comment I would have on these, and that actually brings up a good point. If you just have a standard detail to include, because are we looking at 9-inch rain garden, or are we looking at
Yeah.
just a conveyance swale of 9 inches, or are we looking at almost like a tree
full on.
filter box that they
Yeah.
have in
Yeah.
the. Yep.
So that's absolutely the plan, to show these alongside where they say type, like what those types are.
Right.
A couple questions from the design team. So they made a few decisions to try and keep them as clean as possible. One question was whether you wanted to be showing town-owned parcels on these maps, or like we could show that separately somehow in the plan.
What do you mean by that? To show which of these are on town-owned and which would be on private property?
Yeah, so like which of the parcels are town-owned?
I guess that would be helpful. I mean,
For the most part, we know them
we sort of
already,
know it,
though,
but I mean,
so.
if that's an easy thing to show, I think we wouldn't want to stay away from residential, because if we could do an easement and do like a small
Right.
rain garden along an easement area of a residential, that would potentially be very doable.
But it's certainly
Yeah.
easier to do public right of way in town.
But some of these areas aren't gonna
Right.
have any public.
Right.
So, I mean, I wouldn't stay away from an area that floods just because it doesn't have public.
We could even do it just as a map that we provide to the town. Like it doesn't have to go in the final plan if it's something that's helpful to you.
We could figure that out.
Okay. So we
Let
will
me
not-
just throw out one thing. One of my memories from when the Army Corps did the $500 million plan is that they said it's going to be up to the town to get any easements that are necessary. And that might be a significant effort. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Because, you get this nice 300-foot wall and you got two people who say, I don't want that wall on my backyard. And there you go.
And you try to buy them out.
Those were for the other plans, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a downside to including the identification of town-owned parcels in these documents?
No,
I mean,
I think it'd actually be helpful. If it's easy enough to do, if it's on your GIS map anyway and it's easy to do, why not?
I
We
mean,
can always
because for
add
me,
it as a layer,
sorry.
so
Yeah.
you can turn it on and off as
Yeah. Yeah.
you like. So that's not a problem. We can do that.
Yeah, because we may be trying to make a decision, and if there's a question of, like you just said, Dick, flexibility of private homeowners versus, and all of a sudden we can click on that layer, Lindsay, and see, oh wait, it's adjacent to public land. Oh, maybe this gives us a little more flexibility to make a decision. So I think having it as a layer makes sense.
Yeah, as long as it's not a big task, yeah.
Yeah, yes, Bill, absolutely. You're right. Yep. If they have it and it's able to be done without a great deal of effort,
Yep,
agree.
exactly. We're all, I think, all agreement on that. Yeah.
Another comment was whether it would be helpful to add the contours to these maps. And the recommendation was if we might put it on the blue spot maps so that we're keeping the design maps a little cleaner.
Yeah, I think it adds too much complexity.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the other thing, just when I go on the town GIS and I try and look at elevations, when I zoom in, the contour lines go away. When I get down to where I can see them in detail that I'm looking for, they disappear because they don't stay forever.
And the design team's recommendation would be if they took the contours off because they were 1 foot contours, so it was really way too busy. It was hard to see the map. Their recommendation was if you wanted to add them back to go for like 10-foot contours or maybe 5 feet.
that might be
How-
too
how
far,
would be
though.
useful?
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah. I would say certainly, and for the public, I wouldn't show that. It's too confusing.
Okay.
If there might be, like this one here might be very interesting. So, if you want to submit that one, or if you've done a
This is
couple
the
of
one
them,
again.
but on a separate thing. But yeah, for the public
Okay.
meeting and the report, I probably wouldn't put them in. But this
Okay.
may be useful
This
on
one
one
I
or
think-
two
this one I think it actually
situations.
would be really
Yeah,
useful.
for Owen Fish.
I think it'd be very useful.
Because then it also goes to what Keith was saying too, because the contours may have a big effect on
Where you
what we
place
can
things.
and can't do, so
Okay.
that would be helpful, yes.
Okay. We'll give you one example for Owen Fish, and then you'll let us know if it would be helpful for any of the others.
Right.
We can provide it outside of the plan.
Okay.
That's
Makes
fine,
sense.
yep.
Awesome. All right. I think we can talk schedule. So by Friday, if possible, to provide the compiled comments to Race on the coastal strategies.
Right.
Wednesday, August 5th, we have the meeting scheduled with the regulator. I'm traveling this day, but it looks like it works for my itinerary. So I would say 80% chance that you'll get me, but you'll 100% get Indrani, and Aja will be there as well. And then I'm back on August 7th, so that's the date to get the inland strategy comments to Weston and Sampson. It sounds like you may have some vacation and might get those earlier, which is great. I'll forward them on and meet with the design team on those. I would say the priority on this version is to think about what we will be presenting to the public and what we'll be presenting to the board. So how you would like them to look for those meetings, comments like yours, Bill, on, there's underground utilities here. I don't know if this would be possible. And we'll decide then which ones to incorporate into these drawings for that next round. and then which ones we might want to wait possibly until after we have public comments. That's just going to sort of depend on what exactly the comments are. One of them, like the cul-de-sac, for example, where it's like, we want to see how the public reacts to this. Maybe we keep it in, that kind of a thing. So,
So I have a question on these. The deep meeting, the September 2nd Board of Selectmen meeting, and the public meeting. We would very much like to see the presentations at least 2 days, maybe 3 days before.
Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to comment on that.
Okay,
For the Board of Selectmen meeting, okay, we need to get all the information, any backup material that Friday before by town charter, whatever you want to call it.
but the Friday before is
The
when we
Friday-
have to submit it to them, which means we would want to see it
Right,
a
that's
couple
what I
days
said, yeah, we
earlier,
go.
so we can give you comments.
We would probably want to see it a full week ahead of time, because the first select woman is going to want to see it.
Before, and so
Before,
they
yeah.
could, we have to send it out in the package, just so you know. For the Board of Selectmen meeting, we have to send it
I
out
left my phone,
ahead.
I don't have my phone there. I was just looking for a date. Does anybody have the calendar? And then,
I have a calendar on my phone.
there was some debate at our last meeting about whether.
oh, no, you would make that Monday, August 24th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Board of Selectmen meeting would be the Wednesday, the 2nd. So you're saying that they need it by Monday, or they need it the week
Well,
before?
meeting materials, you would say sent to town.
To town on the
Right,
24th,
yeah.
and then we have to send it out on the 26th.
And
Just 1 week
then,
before?
we would, either we have them do it, or we have to submit to the Board of Selectmen.
1
They
week
need the
prior?
backup, that Friday before.
Oh,
so
Friday
that would
before,
be-
okay.
So that would be probably what, August 28th, if I'm doing it right?
Yes, 28th.
28th.
Okay. And then the deep meeting, we'd like to see at least, I don't know much time you would need to make changes, but if we could see it, 3 days before, get you comments, and then have you be able to make our comments on the presentation to deep before the deep meeting. How much time do you need to make our edits?
So it looks like Audra maybe had to hop off. That's a question for Race. But
Okay.
I can follow up with you on that.
So the deep meeting is Wednesday, the 5th. I guess
Let's
the
say
question-
tentatively.
Could we see something July, maybe 29th or 30th, which is only a week away from now. So I don't know if that gives you enough time to do. Maybe say
Well,
July.
that's basically Azure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give Audra a call tomorrow and include that in a follow-up email to you. I don't want to speak on their behalf. I would say that that's going to be dependent on when you get your comments to them. So
Yeah, or
depending on
maybe,
the level of comments, it
So
sounds
we're
doable.
getting our comments to by the 24th.
so then
So that
she
doesn't-
should be able to get a week later, the July 31st.
So maybe July 31st.
Yeah, and then that way we can
Then
look
you
at
get
a
a week.
Monday and Tuesday. The deep, I forget, when's the deep meeting, is in the morning?
Is 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock? 1
Yeah.
o'clock, okay.
So we could get comments, we could look at a Monday, the 3rd, and get comments back on the 4th. That doesn't give us a lot of time.
No.
It doesn't give her a lot of time if we
No.
have a lot of comments.
But again, this is to the DEP and we can. basically
She's
estimate-
back.
All right, and then on the public meeting, I guess at that point, we're gonna have a lot of the plan done, right? Is that gonna be,
Audra, we just had a conversation about the timeline on comments for the deep meeting. If you were provided comments by the end of this week, so July 24th, which is Friday, would it be possible to show the materials that will be presented at the regulator meeting to Who's that going to? Becky and Bill by July 31st.
Even if at end of the day, we'll give you the end of the day. Give you the full week.
And then we can look at them over the weekend and then get any comments back to you on the close of business on Monday, the 3rd, which gives you the 4th to make any changes before the 5th. You're smiling.
I don't know. It's frozen for other people, but it's you're frozen with a smirk.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, why don't you work? It sounds like we might have lost her, but tell us what makes sense for you guys, but we do want to see with enough time that we can share comments back. And we'll try to turn our comments around really quickly. We'll just book time in our calendars to meet and turn it around.
Is this an official submission to DEEP, or is it more
So
of just a
what this
conceptual
is-
meeting?
So
Like,
what DEEP does is they're going to have about 12 people on the call, because we just shared conceptually the kinds of things we'd be asking them. It's sort of they call it sort of an informal pre-planning meeting.
yeah, okay.
And it's really just for us to share the kinds of things we're thinking of, and for them to share back any issues they see with these. It's not my finding on
Yeah.
DEEP. They could say no later, probably.
I had one with a couple of projects with them, if it's something similar, where again, they had 12 people, they had a couple people from Army Corps,
They
Fisheries, a
have
whole
different-
group.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's whatever we make out of it. Obviously, the more information we give them, the more plans or whatever that they could look at, they have more of a comment. If we just do everything verbally and they're really seeing nothing, that you'll get some maybes, or, well, we don't know until you submit a plan, or we don't know exactly. So it really is.
Yeah, so I mean, what we'll get back from them will, to your point, depend on what we give them and what they can comment on. But some of these things conceptually that we want to get, like the bulkhead discussion, we can have.
Or if nothing else, Azra, if you can hear us, is maybe on Friday, July 31st, you give us what you have so far, and, if there's a couple things that you have to give us Monday and Tuesday, so be it,
At least we can give you comments on
But
that.
we can at least,
Yeah.
That's fine. And quite frankly, I don't think that, again, it's much more than, say, the PDFs of kind of the viewer that we sent
Right.
around.
Yeah.
And I think, again, the big picture is, hey, DEEP, we need to protect public infrastructure here. And there might be some of these sites that, what we're talking about, unless it's a deployable, it's characterized as a flood and erosion control measure, which is, we know, generally frowned upon for a structural solution. But again, we're protecting public infrastructure. What do you think? And, hopefully we get their heads nodding in the right direction, that they agree that, the goal of protection of this public infrastructure is, worthy of, a structural solution. And again, there's a few sites that potentially have, some impacts and gladly will have to mitigate. But again, I think general consensus, but I agree with Bill. I heard what you said, like, without concrete plans, they're not going to really say yes or no to anything. I mean, we've done pre-application meetings with them where we have like 35% design level plans, and they're still at that point in time not committing to anything until they have an application before them.
Yeah, one of the things, though, I think, because Keith has had, and Keith and maybe another member from FERB, I think, had talked to DEEP, and they were given the impression that DEEP was okay with the deployables and all this other kind of stuff. But if we bring it up in the meeting and they say yes, then we document, well, in the meeting that we had this date with all these people, then it confirms.
Yeah.
Because I just afraid of a little of a flip-flop.
All right, so what is DEEP's jurisdiction? Is their jurisdiction because it's within 1,000 feet of the high water mark? because all of these things are going to be above the coastal jurisdiction line, right?
I think they're,
For the most part, I mean, if we wanted to do like say the berm on 185 Thorpe Street, that would likely be in their jurisdiction. But you're right, Dick. 90% of what we're talking about is above the coastal jurisdiction line. So where they get their 2 cents is in the CAM review for any of this, because now
Right.
all CAM reviews have to be sent up to the state for their review and comment. And they
Yes.
can, I mean,
And they comment, and Deep commented on the 830G application at the corner of Reef Road and Richard White Way, and we ignored those comments.
and
So-
the town has the right to do that.
That's what
I'm
happened.
not familiar with that.
Yeah.
oh, they basically said it was a safety issue.
Yeah, they said it's a safety issue, and we said, nah.
Chose
Yeah.
to ignore their comments.
Well, and a lot of towns on that particular issue, because Deep's new mission is to reduce or not promote increased residential, with 830Gs in low-lying areas where there's no dry egress during a 100-year storm. So,
Right.
so that's the issue there. And again, they're saying that to all the towns that have these proposals, and the towns are saying, well, we need these buildings, we need this, we need this housing, and we're gonna,
Yeah, the legislature's making us do it, so why are you raining on our parade?
exactly. So
But anything that is in a marsh area, we'd have to show mitigation for that, right? I mean, they have jurisdiction over.
yeah, over wetlands, as well as Army Corps. And we're not necessarily meeting with Army Corps at this point in time, but I think in general we'd like to get them to say, yes, we acknowledge that these types of flood protections, just like with the tide gates, right? Like the greater good was doing the project, and yes, there was some temporary wetland impacts, but they were able to be mitigated. I think that's the general sense that we would expect that any direct impacts or indirect impacts would be mitigated.
As there just, the one meeting that I had, I don't know, maybe about 5 months ago with Deep, they did at least have one representative from Army Corps, so there is a slight possibility of that. So maybe if there's one or two questions that you might have for Army Corps, just put them in your back pocket, so to speak, just in
Okay.
case somebody from Army, Corps.
Yeah, I wonder if I even have the list. I can send you the list of the people I think that were invited to the meeting.
Yeah, was the time scheduled? Because I have the whole day just blocked out saying Deep meeting, but I don't have a time.
1:00.
Okay.
1:00. And I can read you the people who are going to be there. Jessica Billiard, it was the organizer. Susan Jacobson, Anna Laskin, Bruce Williams, Colin Clark, Mary Beth Hart, Darren Wright, Camille Fontanella, Christopher Field, Emily Tully, Eric Hammerling, Karen Allen. I'm not going to pronounce this right. Lashkone Garrison. It was optional. Linda Brunza, optional. Megan Granato, optional. Megan Andrews, optional. Robin Blum, optional. And William Sigmund, optional.
Who's not at the meeting?
I mean, we may not get everyone. The optionals may not, none of them may show.
Yeah.
But this is the invite list.
I didn't recognize any on the Army Corps.
I recognize the handful. Yeah, there's a lot of. I think on those kinds of meetings they get every single department, so probably ones that we're not personally not used to dealing with.
Yeah. All right, this is helpful. You'll send us this updated list with now that you've put these dates in?
Yeah, so we sort of dove right into the September 2nd Board of Selectmen meeting date. We had sort of discussed last time whether we wanted to present to the Board of Selectmen first or to then go to the public and present to them after. Did you discuss that further or ask the board?
So we met with them today.
Okay.
And we mentioned the fact that we were having a public meeting on the 17th and that we wanted to meet with them on the 2nd. I mean, I think my understanding is that the final plan would be after the public meeting.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So we would probably go back to the board with the final plan, because that would have any comments from the public. And I think they would rather, us have it finalize the plan based upon any red flags. that
Okay.
public-
So they were good with September 2nd.
Well, I think so, right?
Um,
I don't know, they said yes, but
yeah, I would put it in that, and we will let you know if that changes.
Okay. And what time is that? I'll send a hold.
4
4
o'clock.
o'clock, yeah.
And if we would like to, it sounds like we'll have good direction on most of the pieces here. But if we would like to bring the coastal visualizations or a draft of those to the Board of Selectmen meeting, we should probably schedule a time to meet sometime the second or third week of August. I know there was a lot of vacations to juggle there.
I mean, I'm gone from the 15th.
You're the third and
on,
fourth
but-
week, and I'm the second week, so.
Yeah, so, but you know what, we just have to do it without us, or without, Bill could be there, and we've got John and Dick as the FERB representatives. While I'm
Would
gone.
Friday, August 7th be an option?
I'm around, I'm around virtually.
I think, yeah, I think I'm good then. On the 7th. We can try that.
Okay,
And we
and
can
we're
give
also
you-
doing the
we can
comments.
give you the
We'll give you the comments then,
Seven.
too.
I was actually thinking, because it's the day to provide the comments to us, I may schedule that with the design team. That way you can sort of relay your comments directly to them, because they'll be able to answer sort of, more of the, I believe John will be back as well, who sketched these out. So that's perfect.
And then the presentation for the public meeting, just give us a date of when you get that to us, if it's gonna be the 17th. What date would you let us see the presentation so we can give you comments? Just tell us the date, we'll work with you to get comments back.
Friday the 11th, or does that work? Do you want Monday the 14th?
Either one. Why don't you get it to us Friday the 11th, and we'll get
Yeah.
it back to you Monday or Tuesday with any comments. We'll try to get our comments back by Monday. And then we owe you comments on the 14th or 15th? Comments back to you by the 15th? Urban town comments. Give us till the 15th, just because there's a
15,
weekend there.
you
Give
gotta
us-
give them.
give us a work day.
Day and a half at least, yeah. And again, hopefully by then, there's not many comments.
Yeah, because we will have seen all this
Yeah.
stuff before.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of, again, going back to that Board of Selectmen, whether we want to have it before or after. We'll probably have to do it twice, but I know in their scope it's just the one. But obviously, if we have met with them on the 2nd, they have the public meeting, and then there's the final, we can just do the presentation if we had it, because they would have seen it, they would have attended the meeting.
Yeah, and they would have.
Or the other would be to just have it after the meeting. But they definitely would still want all the information, before that.
Well, for the Board of Selectmen meeting, will you have numbers and HAZs and all that done?
Yeah, so I will share by the end of this week the sort of draft memo to make sure that the direction that that's headed in looks good to you. What would be helpful is if you can send me the data that you do have for the housing from MetroCog. It sounds like
I'll send you the street, but it's got lots of holes in it. I'm just warning
sure.
you.
Okay. If we feel that that is not meaningful, I might recommend, since we have budget in that task, I will get a description on this FEMA Fast tool and send you an example of what we might see about the assessor having, and maybe we can go in that direction. But we can definitely have the Hazardous memos for the Board of Selectmen meeting. Once we have set the parameters for it, running it is fairly straightforward, and then it's just a matter of assembling the report.
Okay.
Is someone going to reach out to the assessor to see what information they have?
Once she sends me that,
Oh, okay.
we'll.
Yeah, I'll send the template for the data that it can be useful for. The example that I have wasn't the most helpful because it's a private property. But
If I
they were
do-
going to send me just an example of a blank Excel sheet, and so we can see if that data is able to be pulled from the assessor. I know when I was at MetroCog, I've had to work with that data in the past, and it can be like there's just a lot of data in there. But potentially, if they're able to filter it for us, that would be possible.
We're at 8:30 or 9:30. So, anything else? Or
Yeah. This was a long meeting. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Really appreciate it. I think we're done.
Yeah.
We had a couple other things on our agenda. Just quickly, in case you guys haven't heard, the Penfield notice of violation was lifted. I don't know if you heard that, but FEMA officially lifted the notice of violation. So we are now free and clear to show any Penfield designs that we want, and so.
I'd give it a little bit of time, but yep.
Yay. And then I guess we were just gonna do a quick update on the detention projects at Fairfield, Wheeler, and Princess Hill, but I think we have those dates from last time. Nothing's really changed.
Well, actually, we are at the bid opening, and right now we are trying to narrow down between two contractors. One is pretty much at budget. The other one was above budget, but still within the overall budget. So I should say one was at the engineer's estimate. The other one was within their budget, but higher than the engineer's estimate. So we just got to figure out.
And when will you have that landed?
We're hoping to go to the August 5th Board of Selectmen meeting
Okay.
and award the contract right after. Yep.
What, on the last one for Fairchild Wheeler, there was a big hangup in getting the contract signed. Do you expect this will go more smoothly because it was totally in the spec?
I hope to have that answer in two or 3 days. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a Bridgeport insurance issue, or what was the issue?
It was a combination of things. Well, one was an insurance issue, which mostly got resolved. The biggest issue was timing of the project. Bridgeport did not want them to do the project in April and May, and with the winter that we had no choice.
And that bidder that we were in negotiations with, they chose not to
They
rebid.
actually bid and they doubled their price. So whenever
Oh,
somebody
they did?
says, to rebid the contract, sometimes you get higher prices.
Did they appear on the bid comparison list? There were three bidders on the
Yeah,
comparison.
they were the third bidder.
Oh, okay. I didn't recognize the name from that.
They might have been missing something, so they may be disqualified anyway, but I would still include their bid because it was 4.9 million just for the golf course. So,
And then the only other thing I had, and maybe this is a new business thing, is that, we had talked about as a town, having an elevation 12 be our guideline for all new projects that had some element of flood control structure to them. And some of the tide gate projects, we're not sure that they're actually showing up as a elevation 12. I think you'd asked some questions of whether the new.
the riverside is
Riverside Creek.
what we might do on that one. My suggestion was to, because Race is going to, I believe, meet with Deep on that, much like a pre-concept meeting or whatever. They or go for a permit.
They submitted
They submitted-
the application to
Okay,
D. We have not seen the application.
So was it elevation 12 or not?
I'll have to get
We have
back.
not seen the, guys,
I got
we
you.
have not seen the application. I, for one, would like to see the application.
Too, before it goes to deep, because then it's like done.
We wrote a letter to Tim Bishop that we would like a seat at the table during all the meetings about Riverside Creek. We indicated that we would like to see the berm raised between Riverside Drive and the open space as part of this project.
And then the other tide
We
gate,
have heard, I have heard nothing.
I've heard nothing either. And the other tide gate project is the one that's off.
We had
the
talked
pipe.
about that yesterday.
Yes.
The other thing on that was, is we would bid it as a add alternate. And then again, if it was cost prohibited to do that, or if it was, say, another 300,000 and it really didn't get us anything because water can go around, then maybe it's not. If it's within the budget, why not get it?
But the point, my point is, we need to put it in the application and have whatever dialogue we need to have with Deep, so that Deep says, yes, you may do that. And you can take 5 years to do it, or 6 years, or whatever.
We can't go back
My
again.
understanding is that they were race with meeting with Deep, and then we can try to get that. But I'm not 100% sure.
Shouldn't we have that agreed
It should be
before
a-
race goes to deep?
From day one. That should be in the plan from day one,
Yeah.
from my perspective.
The other thing, like they were talking about before, with the berm versus sheet
Drew, can you
piling,
unmute
whatever.
Azure again? She might be able to, she says she's
I'm not-
muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's in with that or if it was Steve or one of the
Oh,
other.
okay, she might not be.
But
I don't know, I'm ignorant on
if
that
it's
topic.
elevation 8 and we bring it up to 12, that then is going to increase the footprint of the berm at significant cost and increase the impact on the wetlands. So it's not quite simple. The other one, we were doing a wall there, and that's something we might be able to do is the wall. The head wall, for the
But if we're not
tide
gonna
gate.
get to elevation 12 everywhere, we're gonna have low spots again.
Well, we're gonna have low spots along that, because that's one of the concepts.
Offline,
Yeah.
offline, we need to take it offline.
But it is in one of the concepts, and it shows you how long the berm has to be in one of the concepts that they're working on. Yep.
The tide gate one, at
Yes.
the Riverside Drive.
Right, correct. You'll see how long that is. Yep.
Okay, anything else that's critical, because it's now getting on to 20 of 10, it's been a really long meeting. Is there anything else that needs to be done and discussed in today's meeting? No. I have nothing. Bill, anything from you?
Nope, just if anybody has any videos or photos or whatever.
I will send you the video, I've got 2 videos, I'll send those to you.
Yep, from this point.
All right, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Would anyone like to second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you again, all of our visitors. Thank you, Keith. We are not forgetting you. We are not ignoring you. We just don't have a plan yet for you.
Never thought you were. Just the one thing to say is all the issues that Bill has brought up about the mitigation have all been addressed in the past. Every single one of them. So it's time for us to go forward with something.